He's standing at the gates, I hear him knocking, knocking. My princess, don't despair, heroes come to free you. Wait, don't click off, please. I promise, I'm never gonna sing again. I just wanted to sing that little excerpt of a song, because that's a song that I like to sing every time the going gets a little bit rough. Every time I need a little motivation, a little bit of a pick-me-up to keep on trucking on, right? It's probably the most cliched song ever about a knight going on a journey to save the dragon. Shit. It's probably the most cliched song ever about a knight going on a journey to slay the dragon and save the princess. And the reason that I sing that song whenever I need a little bit of extra motivation is because I want to be ready for the princess that I'm going to eventually rescue, right? I want to become the strongest, most powerful knight in the land, right? So that when it's finally time for me to go and save the princess who's trapped in her tower, I'm gonna be ready. You know, I'm gonna be strong enough. But here's the thing about that line of thought. It's not exactly logical, is it? Because realistically, I'm never going to find a princess, and I'm never going to ever find anybody resembling a princess. And even if I do, I'm probably never going to become a legendary knight anyway, so what's the point in working that hard? And yet, for some reason, I can use this heavily emotional song to spur me to do things that I know I need to do logically, right? If that makes any sense. Like, logically, I know I need to go do this and that, you know, I need to get up off my ass and actually go out there and do shit. But I need a little bit of motivation to do that, so I appeal to my emotional side in order to accomplish that. Which brings us to the topic of this video. So, logic versus emotion. I feel like the answer to this question is fairly straightforward, because obviously 100% of the time you're going to want to choose logic, right? I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. Like, logically thinking your way through problems and thinking, thinking about your actions and all that is just objectively the best way to live your life. And this is kind of the way that I've been trying to live my life pretty much for my entire life up until this point. Because I realize that emotions are irrational and stupid, and, you know, if you listen to them, it's your first step to ruination, right? But here's the thing. I'm human. And as much as I hate to admit it, 80% of the decisions that I make are founded on emotion, on instinct. Every time I decide to procrastinate, that's emotion. Every time I decide to get a cheat meal, that's emotion. Every time my anxiety keeps me away from the gym or whatever, that's emotion. Very rarely is my logic actually able to triumph over my emotion, and I'm able to actually go and do things that are good for me. Usually these are relatively few and far between when you compare them to the decisions that I make that are charged by emotion. So what exactly is going on there? Because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense that your brain is actively sabotaging you, right? Like, you have these, you know exactly what you need to do to accomplish and be successful and, you know, become self-actualized, and yet your brain wants to do everything but that. You know, it always wants to procrastinate, it always wants to cheat, it always wants to be lazy, it always wants to bypass, take the easy road. What's that about? And the simple fact is that there's nothing wrong with our brain, right? It's not broken, it's doing exactly what it's designed to do. Because the brain, or a brain-like structure, I suppose, first appeared 526 million years ago. So the brain that we currently have in our heads, the current model of the human brain, is the product of 526 million years of evolution and natural selection. It's not broken, it's an extremely complex organ, right? Everything that we hate about it is stuff that it's specifically designed to do because evolution decided that this was an advantageous trait to have. But the society that we live in today is so fundamentally different from, you know, the 526 million years that this brain grew up in. So obviously a lot of the things that it does now, a lot of its tendencies are essentially vestigial and even detrimental, right? And so here's the thing. Back when we were like animals or whatever, right? We needed to be able to make decisions in a split second without even thinking about it, right? Our body needed to move before our mind started to move. And so if I'm staring down at a lion and I have to sit here and like logically think, okay, what's the best course of action here? By the time I come up with a good plan, I'm probably already dead. It's already eating me, right? But if my brain sees that line and immediately springs into action, and I start running or I start fighting or whatever, the difference between having to think about what I'm going to do versus just doing it was the difference between life and death. And that's why we ended up like this. It was evolutionarily beneficial to us to make these split-second decisions and for our bodies to make decisions on its own, basically. Which is why it's so difficult to override decisions that our brain has made for us. Because as far as our brain knows, this is a matter of life or death, right? This is a matter of energy conservation. Like, you shouldn't be going against it in any circumstance. But the circumstance that we're in is so wildly different from anything that the brain is used to dealing with that it doesn't understand that. As far as it knows, it's doing everything it can to stop you from wasting pointless energy and from getting yourself killed, right? And so I'm going to take this principle and I'm going to relate it to anxiety. I'm going to relate it to the anxiety that stops me from doing what I want to do. So I'm just going to use going to the gym for an example, because this is a very common example, and I think this is something that everybody has to struggle with. Whether you realize it or not, your brain has what is essentially a scale, right? And this scale weighs your decisions instantaneously. And these decisions aren't always rational. Like I said, they're supposed to be made in a split second. You're supposed to move before you even think. So it's not always obvious what exactly is on this scale, right? All you know is the result of it. So the best thing we can do is to logically think and try and interpret what our brain has decided to put on this scale. So let's go back to the example of the gym. On the positive side, we can look super good. We can look sexy. We can be healthy. We have a few positives, a few things for wanting to go to the gym. It makes us more respected in our society. And it makes me feel good because I get endorphins pumped through me, right? Now, on the other hand, let's see what we've got for the negative side. There are people there. These people might watch me. These people might judge me. It's hard, right? Like, I want to stay home and, eat potato chips and watch TV, right? I don't want to go out and exercise. I just want to relax. And so, logically, you might be looking at the scale and thinking, well, obviously I'm going to go, I'm going to go to the gym. I mean, why wouldn't I? It's only everything that's good is, a real tangible thing. It's a real tangible positive, whereas everything that's bad is just kind of it's negative, just because it's kind of just in our head. But our brain looks at this whole thing, it sees this this attribute, people might look at me, and it says, oh, this is bad, we need to stay away from that. Because at some point along the lines, your brain learned that being judged by people, being seen by people, is death. It's dangerous, and we need to stay away from it at all costs. So it's looking at the scale, and all the weight is going down on the negative side. According to your emotions, the negatives far outweigh the positives. So it's a no-brainer to your body to just want to stay home and to do everything in its power to stop you from walking out that door. Because as far as it knows, it's just trying to save you. And here's the thing about this. Sometimes your logic can triumph. Sometimes if you have just incredible willpower in that moment, you can get yourself to walk out that door, get in your car, start the car, drive off to the gym and get a good workout in. Sometimes you can actually manage to do that. And maybe you can even do it 5 times in a row, right? And that's wonderful. That's awesome. But the issue is, if you're fighting through that struggle every single day, that is a constant uphill battle. You will never win that in the long run. Eventually you're going to stumble, and you're going to fall, and you're going to fall right back into where you started. Because every time you make that decision, you are constantly going against the odds, against the scale that your brain has set for you. So how exactly do you deal with that? Because obviously you can't do it logically, right? Like I can sit here and talk to myself all day about the positives of why I should go to the gym, but it's not going to make me any more likely to get up and go to the gym. And that's simply because our brain doesn't work on logic. It works on emotion, it works on instinct, it works on split-second decision. So you need to do something that convinces your brain that it's more beneficial to go to the gym than it is to stay home. And so a mistake that I made was actually trying to take the easy route out of this, right? The mistake that I made was that I tried to add more to the positive side of the scale, right? But the issue with this is that we already have plenty of weight on the positive side, right? Like it's not a bad amount of weight over here. It's actually pretty good. The issue is the traits on the negative side are so overinflated that we could never realistically get enough positives to outweigh it. So we need to figure out a way to take these negative traits and make them weigh less. Now, how do you accomplish that? I've got no fucking clue. I still can't figure it out. For me, my number one issue is social anxiety, right? So I hate the social aspect of going to the gym. And I think that dealing with that social aspect is what makes it so difficult for me every time. That's my variable that's way overweight. So somehow, I have to figure out how to show my body that the social aspect of doing the stuff that I need to improve myself is not bad. It's not that bad. But I just have no idea how to do that. Because you would think that repetition would be the key to that, but so far that doesn't really work for me. It works short term, but again, I eventually stumble because it's still an uphill battle. And when I stumble, I wind up starting from the bottom, and I can't succeed. It's a Sisyphean task. I keep pushing it, up the hill, but I can never get it over to get it rolling. So if I ever figure it out, I promise you guys will be the first to know. But the brain is incredibly efficient. It's incredibly good at what it does. And so because of that, you can't go against it. If your brain has decided on something, you're not going to be able to overrule that decision for very long. So the only thing you can do is try and find a compromise. You need to figure out how to get your emotional side and your logical side on the same page so that they both want the same things. And I think that once you manage to accomplish that, you'll become unstoppable, right? I don't think there's going to be a single thing on this planet that could stop you from achieving your goals. Because, could you imagine pursuing, self-improvement, pursuing, like virtuous goals with the same vigor that you sit down and play video games with? I truly feel like that most of us, especially as students, as a student myself, we're probably operating at like 2% capacity. And that's simply because our logical side, our stoic side, doesn't line up with our instinct. And so the ones who are able to get their brains on the same page as their minds are winners. They just win at life because there's no way they're going to lose. And hopefully I can eventually figure out how to do that. But until then, that's all I've got for today. I just kind of had this thought floating around my head, and I thought I'd make a video on it so I could sort of solidify it. Thanks for watching though. I'll see you guys next time.